In this video, I want to talk about how to run a group motorcycle ride. A lot of us have been on a great organised ride where everything comes together. Quality roads, great route planning, good group, great leadership, good group management, socially enjoyable, excellent lunch spot, nice breaks, views, photo stops, and everyone goes home happy, safe and satisfied. Sadly, on most rides, this is a result of good luck rather than good planning or good management. Too many rides end up in disappointment as a result of lost riders, missed turns, a mix of bikes and all riders that don't work together. The ride was too long or too short, too many stops or not enough, poor leadership, no group management, no objectives or purpose, no information, and even avoidable breakdowns and accidents. The truth is, it doesn't have to be luck that makes the difference between a shit ride and a great ride. So who am I to tell you how to run a group ride? Here's a little bit about me. I've been a senior instructor in the field of adventure education for over 20 years and riding motorbikes for more than 45 years. I've worked with state body and industry organisations, writing and implementing risk management policies and education programs, as well as designing, coordinating and teaching complex multi-day, multi-group adventure programs for schools, corporate, colleges, universities, both nationally and internationally. My riding experience covers more than 35 years riding on and off road in Australia, including a solo trip around Australia, as well as riding in Nepal, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand and Malaysia for the past 8 years. Considering the legal accountability and complicated nature of adventure activities and the length and breadth of my riding experience, running a successful recreation bike ride for some like-minded riders is a pretty straightforward exercise, and it can be for you too if you implement some simple methods and strategies. But first, a little disclaimer. So what I'm going to cover is the ride leader and leadership, ride goals and objectives, route planning and information, the group and group member responsibilities, ride management, worst case scenario, and how to finish a ride. You need to be proficient in all of these ingredients if you want to run a successful ride. Okay, let's look at each of these, starting with the ride leader and leadership. The ride leader is the person running the ride, the go-to person about the ride. You may be leading out front of the group or delegate someone for this role, but you make the decisions and the buck stops with you. You are the ride. When I talk about leadership, I'm talking about the knowledge and skills the leader needs to successfully manage and run a ride. The ride leader is responsible for knowing and managing the start and finish locations and times, meeting and greeting the group, briefing the group about the route and other details, lunch, fuel and photo and rest stops, answering questions, discipline issues, resolving breakdowns, accidents and or medical problems, even formulating or implementing plan B or C if the circumstances require. We can break these into hard and soft skills. Hard skills such as riding ability, mechanical skills, use of GPS or other navigation methods, route familiarity, local knowledge, first aid, etc. Soft skills such as answering questions and speaking to individuals and or the group, discipline, formulating plans, consulting others, managing group dynamics, reading the weather, and time management. You need to be accessible to all individuals and the group. You need to be across all aspects of the ride. You need to be a good decision maker and a good problem solver. The success or failure of the ride is totally dependent on you and your leadership skills. Let's look at these skills, methods, and strategies. The first question before any ride can be planned is, what are the ride goals and objectives? What do you want to achieve? Why are we going for a ride? Is it an adventure ride exploring some new trails and or new areas? A sport bike day scratching your favourite corners? An historical tour? A social ride on some easy, enjoyable roads? Or is it even a charity ride? How can you have a successful day out if you don't have a clear purpose or outcome to aim for? You need to have a solid understanding of who it is that you're putting the ride together for and why. If you have a group of mixed bikes like motards, sport bikes and dirt bikes, you're not going to find a route that will suit everyone. In fact, you're courting disaster if you try. With this in mind, you need to be very specific about what route for what riders and why, and then promote it to include that genre of riders and bikes to the exclusion of others. Having scooters mixed up with Penangals just isn't going to work. Let's look at the most common ride, a social ride on some easy, enjoyable roads. What questions do we need to ask to know what our goals and objectives will be? Who is your group? Let's assume it's a social group of approximately 12 mixed riders and bikes with low to medium skill levels. 12 is about the maximum for a single group. How many days? Let's just say 1 day. Route planning and information. Using a PC and Google Maps, anyone can design a route that would include some easy, enjoyable roads in your local area that include forests, views, coffee stops, some great corners, lakes, rivers, mountain passes and other highlights. Always try to put together a loop to avoid retracing the same roads back home. I've put a link at the bottom in the description on how to create a route on Google Maps. Remember that travelling in a group always takes longer. The bigger the group, the shorter the distance. For the sake of this social ride of mixed bikes, you've decided on a 200 kilometre route involving a few main roads to get out of town and into the mountains, where there are plenty of easy sweeping corners with a few side trips on tighter roads to some great views or points of interest, with a stop at a historical cafe. Lunch is at a restaurant roughly midway on the route. You know it well, and they cater for a range of food preferences. You have all your boxes ticked with this route selection. An easy exit out of town on main roads equals easy group management. Some great roads with sweeping corners through forest and the mountains equals easy but enjoyable riding. Some side trips on more demanding roads equals skills being challenged and improved for some riders and more enjoyable for others. Some great stops and sights equals the opportunity for people to socialise and get some photos. Stopping at the historical cafe equals learning something about the local area. The restaurant you've chosen equals everyone's eating preferences should be met. You know it's open, you know it's clean, and they welcome riders. The route home is similar, but it's a loop, and that equals you're not covering the same ground twice. Now that you've decided on a route and some stops, you need to calculate how much time all of this will take. Meet and greet and brief, about 45 minutes, plus riding, about 4 hours, plus viewpoints and sights, another 45 minutes, plus coffee, about an hour, plus lunch, that's another hour. That equals 7.5 hours. Let's throw in an error margin of about another hour. That equals 8.5 hours. Being back before dark is always a good idea. So working backwards from say 5 p.m, your start time needs to be 8:30. Start location. A fuel station with a coffee shop is really the only choice. As people arrive, they can fuel up their bikes, check tyre pressure, and sort out any other minor preparations they didn't do yesterday. You could meet at a cafe or somewhere like that, but you'll have to stop as soon as you start to get fuel and do tyres and stuff anyway. Nothing ruins the flow of a ride like too many unnecessary stops. So just meet where people can arrive randomly, do fuel, etc., and have a coffee and a chat before you begin the ride brief. That way, when you get going, you go, knowing everyone has had a coffee, gone to the toilet, has a full tank of fuel, correct tyre pressure, oiled chains, etc. While we're talking about fuel, you, the leader, need to find out who has the smallest tank or least fuel range. If someone can only get about 190 kilometres from a tank of fuel, you need to decide where everyone can refuel before that 190 kilometres. Why everyone? If you allow people to fuel up when they want or need fuel, you'll be spending all day stopping for individual fuel needs. Everyone needs to get a full tank of fuel at the same time. So you've decided on a start location and created a Google Maps pin drop. What details do we have so far? We have a group of 12. We've got our goals and objectives. It's a social ride on easy scenic roads. We're doing a 1-day trip of roughly 200 kilometres, approximately 8.5 hours. We've created a Google Maps loop route with coffee, lunch and rest and views, all pin dropped and ready to post on social media. We have a start and finish location and times. What we need to do now is look at some of the strategies and methods to make this ride run smoothly, maximise people's enjoyment and minimise the risks. The group and group member responsibilities. Pretty simple. Turn up on time. Listen to the briefing and ask questions if necessary. Ride responsibly. Don't put yourself and others at risk. Make sure your bike is in good working order. Wear appropriate gear and help others have a good experience. Ride management. Meet, greet and brief. As the ride leader, you should be first in and last out. Meet the riders when they turn up. Welcome new faces. Have a look at some unfamiliar bikes and quietly see if they are in good working order for the ride. You'll find out everything you need to know by asking a few questions about people's bikes. Everyone loves to talk about their bikes, mods and accessories, as well as the problems too. Make sure people have fuel, have done their tyres, chains, and had a coffee, etc. Introduce riders to other riders to break the ice and create a positive social atmosphere. Call the group together and welcome them. Brief them on the route, the stops, lunch, and how you intend to run the ride and manage the group on the road. Point them to your post on social media, where all the ride details and routes are accessible, so they have a resource to reference in case they get separated and will know where to catch up with you if need be. The Cornerman System. For group sizes of more than 8 riders, I prefer using the Cornerman System. It virtually eliminates the risk of wrong turns and lost riders. There's a link in the description for this magical method of keeping everyone together and moving at a pace that suits nearly all riders without blowing out your travel time. For riders of less than 8, you can generally manage them by simply keeping everyone, particularly the sweep rider, in your mirrors and manage your pace accordingly. If people get spread out, you simply regroup at an intersection or an easily identifiable location. Discipline. I've mentioned discipline a few times. As a leader, it is your responsibility to eliminate and or manage risks. If a rider turns up with bald tyres, a kinked, loose, dry chain, tail light not working, or if someone is riding in a dangerous manner, you need to speak to them or even stop them from coming on the ride. Yes, it's harsh, but it's even worse if you and others have to pick up pieces of broken bikes and bodies because they were riding like a dick on a shit bike and you didn't say anything. The group will expect you as the leader to take charge of these situations and keep everyone's safety and enjoyment as a priority. Ride in staggered formation. It gives oncoming traffic a better view of everyone and allows more braking and response time between riders. There is a link in the description about this as well. Always have a designated lead and sweep rider. You can even wear different coloured safety vests like orange or yellow that designate the lead and sweep rider. That way, everyone in the group can easily identify these two ride managers. No one goes past the lead rider and no one falls behind the sweep rider. That way you know the group is in between you both and no one should get lost. Ideally, the lead and sweep rider would have comms like a centre headset and be able to communicate with each other while riding. Exchange contact details with people who have a role on the ride, such as a sweep rider, so that you can call or message each other in the case of a breakdown, flat tyre or lost rider or a medical issue. Being able to contact each other means you can discuss the problem and formulate plan B or regroup at an agreed location. Worst case scenario. It's always a good idea to know the contact details and location of a hospital or medical centre in the area you're riding. Ideally, you would have someone in the group qualified in first aid, particularly motorcycle road trauma and patient management. Be prepared to assist as best you can to your level of competence. As the ride leader, group management is still your priority. Safeguard your group members, delegate roles or tasks to group members who have specific skills and competencies. Give and receive advice, consult with others, and manage the situation the best you can to reduce the risk of further problems. Contact authorities that are necessary according to the situation. How to finish a ride. Finishing a ride where people just split off at various intersections and or just disappear coming back home tends to leave people a bit flat. Try and include one last stop about an hour or so before getting back into town, maybe a cafe or a viewpoint where you can wrap up the day by thanking everyone for coming along and contributing to a successful ride. Let them know where they can see or post photos and videos of the ride on social media. That way they can review the ride, have a laugh, tell friends, make contact with people from the ride, and find out about the next ride. Don't be afraid to ask via social media what people really enjoyed and what people would like done differently. That's how you start generating the goals and objectives for the next ride and improve your skills at running a group ride. How tightly or loosely you apply any of these methods and strategies will depend on your understanding and skill level at reading the needs and experience level of the group and the conditions. So let's recap what I covered in this video. The ride leader and leadership. You are the ride. Hard and soft skills. A good decision maker and problem solver. Ride goals and objectives. Why are we going for a ride? What do you want to achieve? A social ride, a charity event, etc. Route planning and information. Start, finish times and locations. Google Maps and GPS route details. Consistent with group goals and objectives. The group and group member responsibilities. Turn up on time. Wear appropriate gear. Make sure your bike is well maintained. Don't be a dick. Ride management. Meet, greet and brief. Lead and sweep riders. The Cornerman System. Staggered formation. Risk management and discipline. Worst case scenario. Local contact details for hospital or medical assistance. Safeguard the group. Consult. Delegate. No first aid. And how to finish a ride. One last stop before home. Ask for feedback, review, revise and improve. Post photos and videos on social media. Here's a little rule I've developed over the decades. It's called Johnsey's 8 Ps. Proper preparation and pre-planning prevents piss poor performance. Applying this rule will go a long way to helping you run a great ride. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please like, share and subscribe. Until next time, happy riding.